Welcome to the second episode of the Music Now podcast. This is a new podcast from The Skinny, where we speak to Scottish musicians about their music and how they make it. I'm Laurie Presswood, and in this episode we're talking to Glasgow-based singer and songwriter Alice Faye. We have a chat about touring as an independent artist, working with your limitations, the energy that comes from songwriting, and her new single, Here We Go All Over Again. Enjoy.
Hello, Laurie.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I'm excited. I was going to say to you, I've caught the sentence halfway out of my mouth. You're just back from your first EU tour, which was very Radio 1. I'm also stretching the bounds of the definition of the word just because it was in May. But I haven't seen you since then. So.
I know, it's true.
How was it? Tell me all about it.
It was very good. It felt quite like interrailing, but you've got like a huge suitcase and a guitar. So it was really good, but I quite liked doing it that way. It made me realise, like, on a small level, like as a small independent artist, it's quite possible to do stuff without like a tour manager or a whole team.
Did you organise it yourself?
Well, I organised the travel and the like the hotels and all that. But there was like an agency that booked the gigs and stuff for me. But in terms of like getting about and knowing when to get up and stuff and knowing what train to get, I had to do that myself. But as long as you are fine with not getting drunk all the time, which I was fine with. And then even sometimes if you've got some people around, you can afford to after one gig, if it went well, be like, oh, I'll party tonight. Meh.
Which nights did you party?
I partied when I was in Paris because my friend James came as well. And so we went to get champagne and hot dogs after the gig, and we were up at 3 a.m. outside with champagne. I was like, oh my god. So that was really good. Paris was I definitely got, but it was kind of, I think, all the adrenaline. I didn't really notice I was even, when you don't even notice that you were probably drunk the next day because you're just too full of adrenaline for the whole thing. But basically it was really, really, really good. And because it had that interrailing feeling, I think it almost made it sort of funner in a way. I'm not saying I wouldn't like it if I could have it the way where you get a touring van and there's a bunch of people being sleep at this time and rise at this time, but there was something really sort of it makes you think about Simon and Garfunkel's songs or Bob Dylan-y stuff to do it on your own. You know what I mean?
I was just thinking it really suits your style of music.
Yeah, do you think so?
Yeah. And I feel like you've spoken probably actually in interviews with us before about kind of
the beatnik stuff.
Yes.
Gotta love them.
And so I'm imagining you getting off the plane, nothing but the guitar on your back.
Literally, like Jack Kerouac, but minus the sexism. Make it a woman. It feels like that sort of contemporary version of that somehow.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really fun. We went, Cologne was the first date, and it was so funny because we were just getting a plane to Cologne, and then it was going to be all trains, and that was the most stressful travel day. Everything else was fine, but the plane was just getting delayed. So we actually got in at 2 or 3 a.m. and then got a kind of an Uber to the hotel, and the hotel was closed, and they had our key in a padlock, and we were dun, 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 dun. But then the rest of the days were pretty fine because it was just trains, and the trains in Germany are good, even though all the Germans I met were our trains are awful.
Their standard is so much higher.
I know.
Wow.
Because I met this random German man on one of the trains, and I was like, why does everyone say the trains are bad? Because they're really good.
Yeah, they've got 2 levels.
Yeah, I know.
Have those.
And he was literally he said some sort of German expression that loosely translated to Germans are never satisfied or something. And I was like, cool.
That's brutal.
I know.
Fair enough.
I was like, okay.
How were the gigs themselves?
They were really good. I was very nervous for the first one. And I was quite nervous because I was just doing it solo, sometimes with my guitar. Sometimes there was a keyboard there or a piano there, because we kind of got that organised with the agency, which was really nice. But once I'd done the first show, and actually what I was most nervous about was I had sort of decided to myself that I'd talk to the audience afterwards and give out my merch if they wanted to buy it. Normally I kind of just run to behind the scenes and be like, oh, my sisters will sell my pointless merch or something. But this time I was like, I should probably do that. And so I was really nervous about that, just social anxiety wise. but actually obviously it's fine because people are just complimenting you, so it's really easy to have a conversation.
That's probably one of the best situations in which to meet people.
I know, I was like, what's wrong with me? Like, why wouldn't I have liked this? I mean, like, thank you so much. And also we have stuff in common, because if they like my music, then I'm like, whoa, like
Me
we
too.
have similar I know, we've got similar interests here, la la la. So that was the part I was most nervous for, and once I got through that hurdle, I was like, oh, this is fine actually. And it was just such a nice system, you know, again, not having someone sort of watching over you. It's sort of like, you know, being your own boss, like, which can come with its own drawbacks, but you're also your own boss. There's no one necessarily micromanaging you or maybe telling you you could have done this or that better. Like, I mean, maybe the problem then becomes that you're telling yourself that.
Yes.
But, you know, generally speaking, it's kind of nice, or it was nice at the time, to just pat my own back all the time and be like, cool, like, you know. That's me walking, is that?
No,
nice?
I figured.
Yeah.
I guess podcast not being a visual medium, I
Yeah,
should
I know.
describe the sort of jaunty arm action that you just did.
That's what I just did to you.
Were there kind of people who'd seen the piano in the audience?
You know, there was, I think in Cologne, again, weirdly. And then, but I was kind of like, what? Like, why? And I was playing the guitar for that one. So I was like, I've let them down.
Oh, no.
I've let them down.
But now they know that you contain multitudes.
Exactly. So. I was like, I'm multidisciplinary. There's so many skills at work. But
when the spin-off happens,
I know the
you'll
guitar. I'm not going to be on the guitar. I know that for real. I'm like so not as good. Like, not that I'm amazing at the piano, but I think they liked my passion. They liked my passion for the piano, I think.
I think you're very good. But
you think so?
I would say, not to qualify the compliment I've just given you, I'm not very good at piano. So I'm very impressed by your playing.
Well, thank you, Laurie. I think it's that thing where like you feel like you can hide it because I'm not playing anyone else's songs. Like, you can hide a multitude of sins in your own songwriting. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, well, I have a feeling I'm going to fluff this bit, so I won't do that, or I'll make it extra complicated, but because I've learned it myself for weeks and weeks and no one's seen it, you know, it feels like bluffing or something. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Also, I mean, if you hit a wrong note,
like,
no one's going to say, because you could just be, no, I did that on purpose.
Yeah, exactly. That was my artistic choice, actually. That's my song.
How dare you?
Yeah.
How has life been post-piano?
Post-piano, oh my God, it's been a giddy roller coaster. You know, it's been good. I actually feel like this, I don't know how to say this without seeming like a sort of like weird, like annoying person, but when it initially came out, I was like, I got recognized more, and I think that there was a period where I was kind of I found that like really, really, really nice, but also like, obviously, but also I felt like I was kind of processing then being recognized when I didn't really want people to see me, because I am like an insecure person. Like, I feel like everyone is, but like I really have this thing in my head of, I'm like, Alice during the day is different from Alice during the night, and like I find Alice during the night like more like I can give that to the public, or like, you know, people I'm not as comfortable with. But I had like this really insecure period last year where I was just like, if people came up to me in the street, I'd be like, oh God, they're seeing me at my ugliest. Like, that was literally like what I would think. And I think that the show it was really good to do the show, but like, you know, obviously reality TV is not what performing is like. And it was such a micro example of reality TV. And it was a really nice side of reality TV, but it still was reality TV. Yeah. And like, I feel like everyone's got their sort of like, you know, idea of what that's like. And I think that made me feel very perceived. And, you know, I wore makeup for the final show, and I don't really tend to, just because of like, I don't know, like I don't really tend to. And then I sort of got it in my head that they wanted me to wear makeup because they were like, darling, you're ugly or something. Not that they said that, but like, I think my insecurity about myself sort of came out. And so I think post the show, I was like, oh no, like people seeing me in real life, like I feel insecure about that. But once I'd kind of like had a couple of months away from performing, being a part of a reality show, and once I'd kind of gotten used to the idea of people coming up to say hi, I everything kind of settled about like being like, oh yeah, well, it's just me, and like I'm not ugly. I don't know how that like, you know, settled, but I guess what I mean to say is like I've gotten more used to just like feeling really, really happy about the fact that it's meant that I've got like an audience who don't even need to then like then be invested in me after the fact. Like they're almost sometimes just invested in the sort of story. Do you know what I mean? Like being like, how's Edie? Like,
yeah,
she's good.
Oh man, I was just in there's one of the videos of you on the piano's official YouTube channel, and 50% of the comments are people being like, this made me cry. And then the other 50% are just people, it's you playing Edie in the dress rehearsal for the finale.
Oh yeah, that thing.
And 50% of the comments are people just saying, this made me cry so much. And then the other 50%, weirdly, so many people saying, I would buy this.
I would buy this. Thank you.
Oh man.
Well, I mean, they need to make it more obvious that they can buy this. That's always the way as well. Like, I think that's like the funny thing as well is, you'll get some people that like kind of like become like follow up fans, and then other people that are also just fans of the TV show itself. So it's almost like they're watching it like a soap opera. Do you know what I mean? Like they're kind of like, I loved this character, and that was a good song.
This Edie invention.
Yeah, like some people think my name's Edie. Like we were in a random like petrol station, kind of like halfway between. We had went up to do a gig in Leeds, like, and we were traveling back the next day, but we had a rehearsal, so we were like like going really fast. But we had like a little break, not going over the speed limit, by the way. I promise. Sorry, that made it sound bad.
Any police listen?
Yeah, but we had this break. It was a really, really hot day. Every time I like get in a car to go somewhere, it's like such a hot day. But anyway, we had this like break in a petrol station, and then this kind of like older couple came up, and they were like, "You were on the piano," and I was like so sweaty and tired, and I was like, "Yeah, yeah." I had like a nice latte. And I was like, "Yeah, I was." And then they were like, "Edie, right?" Like they thought my name was Edie, and obviously I was just like, "Yes,
yes."
It's like I'm not going to be like, "No."
Oh, that's really sweet of you. Especially because now they're not going to be able to find you.
I know. I had a feeling they probably wouldn't.
The piano. What's that girl called? I want to listen to her music.
I know. Well, the funny thing is I think for some people it's just enough. Like they don't need. Some people like will ask, like literally be like, "Oh, how can I find you?" And then some people, I think it's just enough to have the interaction, and then they're kind of like, "Oh yes, that was lovely." Like it's that, young girl. Like I did one gig in Liverpool, and there was this like dad. He had like all his daughters with him, which was so cute, and he was like a big fan, but also just a big fan of the song Edie. And he did they kept telling me they did this Christmas quiz at their house where he was playing Edie on the kazoo, and they had to guess the song or something, and he just kept playing Edie on the kazoo, and I was like, what? I was like, how is the song Edie made it to kazoo level? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, it's not a big song. He's like kazooing it. But also what was funny is I like swear in one of my songs.
Yes.
And he didn't really know much else of my discography, which is like totally fine. But after the show, he was like, "You swear? Like, God, my Alice from the piano would never swear." And I was like, I guess I probably seem like really like a very good girl or very sweet or something. But it was like so funny how your image is just like projected that way. He was like, "You swear? What is this? This foul language."
Oh, I'm so sad that I'm so sorry that he had to be let down. He and all his daughters.
I know. I think he was okay with it, but he was like, "Well, you're racy. You're racy in a way I never knew." And I was like, people swear. Like young women swear.
That's true.
Yeah.
It was very nice.
If he listens to this, I really liked you. And your family.
That's really sweet.
Yeah.
So when you sit down to write, what is the starting point for you generally?
Oh, wow. When I sit down to songwrite, I feel like the starting point, it does fluctuate. For me, I know sometimes before I sit down that I'm going to write a song that I like. I feel like sometimes you're just doing it because it's important to keep up the practice and the habit. And sometimes you're doing it because you're like, there's no idea in your head. You're just like, oh, I am in that mental place where I could like write a song right now and probably see it through to the end or really feel it. I feel like I can't finish writing a song or even, get through just noodling. Like I can noodle for a bit and then eventually like give up. Or I can kind of like, no, I'm going to noodle for a while and then a song will come from it, which sounds like weird, but like normally for me, like how songwriting would start is like if like my dream songwriting day, for instance, would be like wake up, have breakfast, have a shower or something, and then go on a walk where I'm either listening to like previous random songwriting ideas or listening to songs in general, and something will like click in my brain where I'll kind of go like, oh yeah, I'm feeling that kind of cool right now where I could go home and write a song. It's almost like a self-confidence thing. Like I feel like I'm in a place where I'm kind of like overconfidence. I don't know like how to explain it, but yeah, but it's like I'll be like walking home being like with this drive just to get to my piano or guitar, either one, I guess. But it's really hard to explain. For me, I do think it is a bit without sounding like a tosser, like a sort of like not the actual product necessarily, but the feeling before you start songwriting is this kind of like, it's like the feeling you get doing like a pre-drinks or before a night out, where you're like, oh yeah, man, do you know what I mean? Like,
it's happening.
Yeah. Like it's like that feeling.
It's the here we fucking go.
Yes,
feeling.
exactly. And I feel like if I don't have that feeling, you know, sometimes I can still write a song, but my favorite feeling as I literally sit down is that, oh man, we're gonna have a good night tonight, brother. You know.
It's great as well because it's not as if and I say this as a fan.
Yes.
It's not as if your music is night out music.
I know.
You're not sitting down to write like club classics.
I know. That's so true. It's so weird. I think it's almost like I feel like I'm putting on a subtle alter ego. Like it's still attached to myself, but this subtle alter ego of like, what would I say if I was like this type of woman that I'd like to come across as, like, you know, like why people like Charlie XCX, for instance, is like you're sort of like, oh, like this makes me feel so good about being a woman because it's just so like I don't give a fuck about what you think. This is exactly what I'm thinking about and how I feel. And even though my music then doesn't like come out as sounding like that, it sort of comes from that place of womanhood for me, where it's sort of like you know, really about how I feel, and I want it to be really unaffected by how I think people want me to talk or sound as like a, you know, identifying as a female artist. And I think that, you know, that can mean like a lot of different like expressions of, you know, fragility and strength. But for me, like the, oh, here we fucking go feeling comes from me being in that state of mind of being like, oh, I feel so confident right now to just be like, this is how I'm feeling. And then that can be in a kind of like cheeky, naughty way sometimes, but also it can just be in like a straight up vulnerable way. And for some reason, there's something like really like I'm about to go on a night out feeling about that for me. And I think it's because it's, you know, like it's sort of like therapy on drugs or something. Like I feel like whenever people say like music is like therapy, I'm always like, I do agree with that, but like it's not like it's like literally like therapy, because whenever I used to have a therapy session, there would still be that bit of me that's like, oh man, I've got to do therapy, and like, yeah,
I've got to dredge all this up.
Yeah,
I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to face those realities today.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes you come out of therapy feeling like how you feel when you come out of writing a song, but you don't go into it the same way, I feel.
Yes.
I think that's maybe the difference. So that's why I guess it's therapy on drugs. So that makes absolutely no sense, I feel, but I'm going to go with that.
I think there definitely have been scientific studies. This is not what you were asking, but I've seen studies where they did family therapy on, and they microdosed the family on MDMA. And it was like, and it was to get people to like open up, right? It's to get people to just be like, I love you so much, and here's what I'm feeling. Here's exactly how I'm feeling right now, and it doesn't matter. I'm just going to be honest.
Well, then you're
with
so
you.
right. Yeah, that's kind of maybe why it is like that, because like particularly because you're sort of like, you know, you can do it collaboratively, and I think there's something like that's why collaborations can feel so kind of wow, because you feel like you're sharing this really personal thing without really having to share it as well. Like, I mean, I could write a song about something and know deep down that it's about this very personal niche thing of mine, and then I can just the rhetoric I can say about it as a side as being like, oh, it's about a dog or something. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, there's this like complete vulnerability about it, but also I can constantly be like, oh, yeah, it's sort of like a persona, or like, oh, I don't really feel like that though. Like it's funny, like the sort of like juxtaposition of being like so incredibly vulnerable, but you also it's not really the same as therapy where you're laying it really all in the line and being like, yeah, well, my issues with my mum came from like, it's just like, I mean, you can do that, but
yeah,
I like to like sort of have the feet in both, like being like, oh, it's not really real and it's real at the same time.
When you sit down to write a song, do you actively think, I would like to write, I want to write a song that feels like this, I'm in this mood and therefore I want to write like this? Does it come from how you're feeling in the moment, or is it sort of an active choice?
This is a great question, because I actually like feel like I would say it is a little bit like an active choice. I'll probably be feeling like if it's going to come out particularly cheeky, it's probably like some sort of like righteous indignation that I'm feeling that will result that product. Do you know what I mean? Or I think it like comes out of this like thing of like, perpetually having this chip on my shoulder for absolutely no reason, where I'm like, oh, I want to prove I can do this sort of a thing. And almost then, but because I want to do that, that's what ends up happening. But also there's the reality of like, and I think this is a good thing, I have limitations on exactly what I can do in terms of like piano playing and guitar playing. And so that will mean that like I could come into it being like, I want it to sound like this, but I have to accept as the product is being made that if I can't quite do that, I've got to go with the flow of how the song might come out by the end of the sort of solo songwriting session, if you will. So sometimes there have been some times where I'm like, oh, I want this to be like, like kind of cheeky song. Like I've got this one that like I've not really ever played, but came from this exact sort of situation where it's called like Bitch Man, and it's like a kind of spicy
oh my God,
song.
Swearing.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry, piano fans. But like, yeah, that one's quite like a fun sort of like Randy Newman kind of short people type vibe, where I'm basically making fun of the idea of like what I'm imagining a bitch man would be. And I really love that song, and it sort of came out of me being like, oh, I just want to write like a kind of like fuck you song to a couple guys I find a bit annoying, but then like sometimes like there could have been a session like that where my natural limitations will mean that it gets sort of pulled towards a kind of more languid kind of like seemingly sadder vibe. Like for instance, for me, I've got this song Silly Little Fool that sounds really sad, but for me that is one that I came into writing it feeling like so badass. Like I was so like, I'm just gonna fucking like drag your name through the dirt, but also not really very clearly lay out on the line like what I'm really saying, and like make sure it's about me. And and even though it doesn't have this sort of kind of like like take this is like an upbeat kind of like rager of a song, it feels like a kind of badass song for me. Or for instance, Reject, when I first wrote that, it was really slow.
Wow, that's interesting.
It's kind of weird. And obviously it was probably always meant to be fast. That's probably one of those cases of like you bring a song to a band and then they're kind of like, oh yeah, it's probably got this sort of feeling, doesn't it? And then you're like, oh yeah, let's do it like that.
That's an interesting one. How does when I cannot remember your band's name and I feel terrible. So I was going to call them Your Boys.
Oh yeah, say boys, because there's no name actually for them. It's just Alice Faye. And then I call them my boy band sometimes for a laugh, but
yes. Okay, well in that case,
for a crazy laugh.
How do your boys affect the songwriting process then?
At
what point would you present a song to them?
So some of the songs I'll be quite like, this is the vibe for. But I am really one for like, I really, really believe like I can't play the drums, like I can't play the bass, I can't play the guitar as well as like Lewis in my band can play the guitar. So I am not going to, unless I really, really have an idea. And then I feel a bit like Paul McCartney and Get Back, where I'm like, you can be doing that. But generally I'm kind of like, you'll know better than me in like what to do instinctually. And I think that is much more fun for me as well. And it's much more fun for them. Like, I think like being in a room together, it also gets to feel more like Get Back in the positive sense, where you're just kind of like, you feel like a bunch of sort of like personal independent musical brains that kind of like come together to make the song what it is. Like I will come in and play it as it is and be like, this is what it's like. But then I kind of leave it up to them to, have whatever specific bass line Richard thinks it should have, or whether it should be the double bass or, the Hofner, or just like an electric bass, or, the same with Chris. Like if he thinks there should be mad percussion, like for Bitter Minded Lover, I really liked that it was going down that lane, but it wasn't me that was like, oh, let's cover it in like loads of like quirky percussion. Like that was Chris's idea. And there's this really cool strumming part in like this kind of middle section of Bitter Minded Lover where I'm doing like a sort of kind of half piano solo, but it's more just kind of like melodic. And Lewis just had this lovely idea to kind of just like play the guitar, like, I don't know, just kind of like strumming it down, but it's got this like kind of sound. And whenever it comes in, it sounds exactly like the type of stuff I'd hear in music I liked growing up and be like, that's so cool. Like, how'd they do that? And I really wouldn't have known that was a possibility on the guitar. Like the fact that is his independent specialty and he's not, singing and, writing mad songs. Otherwise, there's so much more room in his brain to come up with interesting parts in a way that there isn't for mine, because I'm, busy cooking, like in that other sense. So for me it's really very much like I come into the room, I'll probably play the song for them once and then we just jam it, and if I like certain things after the song, I'll be like, that was cool, or I'll be like, oh, that was cool, but you could also maybe do this, or I'd just be like, yeah, that's all really great, let's just rehearse it 2 or 3 times and record it on my phone just so we know how it's meant to go. But we really are like that because we kind of come from a background of like, I started working with them from doing jam nights where we're like playing other people's songs, like, playing Frankie Valli or playing the Beatles or, whatever. So I think that we just have that attitude to music in general, where it's like, well, let's just bash it out, see how it goes, kind of thing.
Yeah. I guess when you have like the kind of the skill, not necessarily the, traditional, not traditional. Not necessarily.
No, I know what you mean, yeah.
When you have the skills, you can fall back on your instincts much more easily.
Yeah. And there's so much to cite from if you do get to like play a lot of covers on the sidelines for a living, or as you're coming up in a music scene, you have so much like influences to pull from, to be like, oh, we could do a wee subtle reference to, like that Beatles track in this one, or, there's this song Sympathy Coeur that I'm obsessed with because my bassist showed me it. It's like Francoise Hardy. But like literally there's a solo in that is exactly the reference for like the middle section of Bitter Minded Lover. Like there's like the weird guitar part, the piano part's very similar. It's not really like a strict solo. It's more kind of like, so yeah, I think they've just got so many references to pull from with their instruments. So I'm not going to get in the way with like whatever I've got going on. And
that is the nature of good collaboration, right?
Totally.
So you surround yourself with people that you trust, and then you don't need to micromanage them.
Yeah, that's the amazing thing about it. Yeah, exactly. Like that's the really great thing about headline shows for me with them is I'm still just worrying about myself at the end of the day. It's not like I'm like, oh no, does Blue Pa know his part or whatever. I'm just like, they'll be fine. Like I just need to worry about making sure I don't mess up, and then it's all okay. So it's all okay.
Sounds good. Well, speaking of collaborations, you've got a little collaboration coming out soon, don't you?
Oh, I do.
You've got a new song out with Julian Santa Maria on the 25th.
I do.
Here We Go All Over Again.
Yes.
And I've got to say, it is really, really catchy.
Did you like it?
Oh my God, I loved it. During the first, I would say, third of this conversation, there were points where I wasn't listening to what you were saying, and I was listening.
No way.
But
that's fine.
It was just like
in your head.
Yeah, when you've kind of got 2 tracks running in your head, and you're like, no.
Oh my God,
off.
yeah, it's so weird when that happens.
Listen.
Yeah, I know. Let's stop this one.
But I've been listening to it on repeat since you said it.
Did you like it?
Yeah.
I thought it would like when we, sort of were thinking about what one to release first, because we're, sort of going to do a little EP, is basically the chat.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know.
Exclusive?
You heard it here first, chaps. But yeah, so it's like a lot of kind of different songs, under the theme of like, sort of like, in my opinion, sort of like either broken down, about to break down, can predict it will break down relationships kind of vibe. But either way, I was like, oh, which one should we do first? And I was just like, this is just like summer fun though. Like we've got to get this out in the summertime.
I mean, the little, I am presuming, merry-go-round at the beginning.
Oh my God, yeah, did you enjoy?
I really like
the
that.
merry-go-round is so fun. It was actually, we recorded them with George Miller, who actually did the artwork for my EP Silly Little Fool. And I recorded Deadbeat with him. So I've worked with George a lot because he's fabulous, very talented, very kooky, and a big fan of what I do, which makes it like really nice to work with him, obviously. And he's also just like so respectful and so kind, and he's got a producer's mind, like just in the best sense. Like that idea, the merry-go-round, was his idea. And I recorded some stuff with him because he's in this band called the Kaisers, and then he did this thing called the Kaiserinas, where basically he did like it's so funny, isn't it? He did like a female version of his band, and his band basically sounded like a 60s band, but they sort of like were a thing in the 90s, but they were doing like a sort of pastiche of the 60s. So then he got me to sing on that. And a really cool thing he did with the Kaiserina tracks is he sped them up. Like we would record them and then he'd speed them up, kind of with the computer, sort of like what you'd imagine the Beatles would do, but probably not with their laptop, So with Here We Go All Over Again, I was actually like, oh, should we speed it up a little bit as well, just so it has that weird 60s distortion feeling of like, it's just a little bit pushed, like it was a little bit faster than how we recorded it. And once we did that, I was like, ahoy, hoy, hoy, ahoy, my boy. And the merry-go-round as well, like adding that in, I was just like, oh, the whole world of this song has been sent for me. It's been built. So he killed it with the producing aspect of it.
So what was the process like for writing the track? Or I suppose I could ask you about the whole EP, but maybe specifically this one, because this is the one that I have
you've heard. Well, actually it's kind of fun. Like Here We Go All Over Again was the last one we wrote for the EP.
How apt.
I know, how funny, right? Like, so basically we'd done a bunch of sessions. I had like a really chill January and February, and also because, like I said at the start of the podcast, I was trying to make sure that I didn't feel really down on myself, and I was like, you know what, maybe part of that is I need to just take a bit of time. So I kind of took off a little bit more of my residencies than I normally would, which meant I was a bit more broke, but I was also doing better mentally, and I had more time to just songwrite. So I was like, okay, I'll do like some more songwriting sessions with Julian, like that'd be fun, and then we can like plan to record in March or April. So we had these songwriting sessions kind of over January and February, very gradually, bunch of songs coming out from that. And then we were planning to record, and we were just going over all the songs we'd already written. And Julian actually just started playing this like little riff. And I was like, oh, that sounds kind of cool. So I kind of started joining in, and it literally just came from that. Like, started singing the melody, and I really liked the idea of us saying bitch, and I really liked the idea of making him say it for some reason, just because he wouldn't normally really swear in his stuff. Not that I'm all like super like up for swearing, but I think there's something funny about a song like that's got that kind of Laurel Canyon vibe. Yeah, having a swear word.
Like when you use it sparingly, it's very powerful.
Exactly, yeah. And also like I kind of like the idea that it's like in the song, it's like the woman calling the guy a bitch.
I like that too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Did you like that? Because in my mind, the song is, and whenever like I'm doing sessions with Julian, I'm aware that I feel like I get really like almost like sanctimonious about explaining like my opinion on the sort of story of the song as we're writing it. But, basically this is like the same jargon I'd be throwing at him, where I'm like, yeah, in my mind, so basically, they're like this toxic couple and they probably shouldn't be back together, but she's come back into town, and he's like, oh fuck's sake, I'm gonna have to go around it with her again, another like around the merry-go-round of this toxic mishap relationship. But in a way it's like they're toxically in sync, you know what I mean? And I like the idea, like there's this bit where we say, I think of her often when I'm off to somewhere I don't have the intention to go, And in my mind, she's like this just iconic, you know, legend that's like just up for the night outs, and she's just up for a party, and she's like, you know, everyone's all like, oh man, like this gal, like love to be around her. And but he's a little bit of like a kind of pussy, or like a shy guy, and so she'll be
love
like,
shy guys.
Yeah, we do, we love a shy guy king, but they're wrong for each other still. And then anyway, she'll be all like, oh come to this night out, and he's all like, oh, I don't really want to go. So whenever he's thinking of her, it's only when he's like going to things that he doesn't really want to, because he's like, oh, that's like what she would make me do. And then, you know, she'd probably call him like a bitch when he doesn't want to go to things, which isn't nice. I'm not saying that's nice. It's a toxic relationship.
But that's funny, because I think that thing of a woman calling a man a bitch, it's almost simultaneously very modern, like in the way that I think we would use bitch, just like
totally, like I said, cultural
sort of
epithet that's ours,
drag race
literally
world.
Yeah.
But it's also quite like it does tap into that sort of maybe 60s 70s, probably at that time would have been using a bit of like a homophobic way to talk to like a straight man, like put them down sort of thing. Yeah, you're so right. So it's kind of got like this weird like it feels referential in a contemporary sense, but it's also got that odd connotation from like before of you're kind of like, oh, there's something funny and like some odd, like when I showed it to my parents, like they were like, I always find it funny, like they like, even though it's literally not that crazy a word, but I think it just feels so out of the blue. It pops.
For quite a sweet song, melodically, they were both kind of like, oh, I was like, oh, that's good. That's kind of like the reaction you want. And also as the reaction, I could tell it would be fun, because when I came up with the idea, Julian was really like, oh, can I really say that word? And I was like, yes, I'm giving you permission. Yeah. I'll be saying it with you.
I'm holding your hand.
Yeah.
So do you kind of do you control do you push the narrative when you're writing together?
I think I can be quite like, he kind of comes from like a different place songwriting to me, and I think that's why it works. I think I am like, when I'm collaborating, I'm quite like I really like to talk about what I think the song is probably saying, and it just helps it flow quicker for me. Like I always think about Lennon and McCartney sessions that I've like, you know, heard Paul talk about in interviews or whatever, where he'll be like, Paul was talking about writing A Day in the Life with John Lennon, and then there's this bit where they say, I'd love to turn you on, and they like, Paul McCartney's like, oh, and then we just kind of like looked at each other and we were like, oh, are we going to say it? And then we were just like, yeah, that'll be cool, like we'll say it. And that's like in a nutshell how I think like collaboration, it sparks really speedy songwriting for me. But I find solo songwriting like completely necessary and beautiful in its own way, but the joy of collaborating is how speedy it is, because you have that person there to immediately affirm for you whether you're kind of on to a cool idea or not. And I, you know, like it's not bloody A Day in the Life, I wish it was, but like, you know, that's like the thing about that song. Even for me, it's like you kind of have that thing of in my head, I'm like, oh, am I going to go there? And it's very easy to go there when someone else is there kind of being like, yeah. Like I'm feeling the exact same thing. Let's take it there. But again, that's why solo songwriting is important, because you can build up that confidence to take things places on your own. And I think it makes you more confident as a person, like because of that. But I would say that I come from a place of really being like, and it's about this and it's about blah, 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 blah. And then he'll kind of be more, I think he thinks more just like as a whole, like as if it was a painting, and I'm thinking of it really like a movie, or really like a movie, I think. And like these two characters, like bleep blah blah bleep boy, you know, I feel like I've said bleep blah boy quite a lot in this podcast.
That's
so
all right. I would say I don't think you've used those exact sound effects before.
Yeah, like slightly
I think
different.
You're mixing it up.
Cool.
Don't worry.
Fine.
You're keeping it fresh.
Bleep blah boy.
So what have you got going on? This brings us to the last segment where I ask you, what's going on? What's going on with you?
What's going on in there?
What have you got? What does the future hold?
What
would you like to plug?
Oh God, the future holds a whole lot of hustle. That's what I say. A whole lot of hustle. I would say a whole lot of hustle. I've got I don't know whether it'll be out before or after, but I've got like the kind of two Scottish headline shows. August 28th, The Caves in Edinburgh.
Woo!
Woohoo! August 29th, the art school in Glasgow, which I'm very excited about because I do think the art school's like seems like such a cool venue.
Yeah.
I've only been there
never
once.
played before?
No, I've never played there, and I've only been there once to see Wise Blood actually, which was amazing. She was wearing like a full white suit, and then there was a bit where she did the song Movies, and they put like a projection on her of the water or something.
Oh, I was going to say, is it the when I saw her, she did
Titanic Rising. Is that the one you saw?
I saw her most recent tour. So she
I
played
did not
the
see
Old
that.
Fruit Market.
Old Fruit Market.
And when she did Movies, they did a they had an Adam Curtis piece that was being projected onto the wall behind her.
Oh my god. I think my time it was merely water.
Maybe she,
or maybe that is an Adam Curtis piece and I just didn't know it was.
This was more like a very intense montage with a lot of stuff in it.
Louis.
And I wonder whether that, I think that might have been created during lockdown.
I wish I got to see that one. I really wanted to see it. I actually really wanted support for it as well, but I was no one. I was no one.
I think I could see that for you.
Yeah, I
Let's
do love Wise Blood. I know, manifest. Oh God, the amount of times I've like manifested those things. That sometimes it does come off though. You know, every now and then you can I do think there's something in manifesting. I really do actually.
Yeah. Did you manifest supporting Rufus Wainwright?
I did. I feel no. I don't. That sounds stupid. But I was like, it was one of those times where I was just like, oh, that's gonna happen. Or like even the silliness. I know it's just obviously like it's just like a random TV show, but for me, I do think that like, you know, as an independent unsigned artist, it was beneficial and really lovely to get to be a part of the piano. And the funny thing is I almost feel like I manifested doing the piano because I just didn't really care that much. Like I was kind of like, oh, they probably won't get me, whatever, like I'll just whatevs. And they actually were not going to have me as a part of series 2. They like sent me an email being all like, oh yeah, not this time around, but could we keep you in the books for series 3 and like reply to this email if you want that. And I like didn't reply because I was like, oh, they didn't want me, like whatever. Like sucks to be them. Yeah. And then they like called in a couple of days and they're like, oh, actually, we really want you to do blah blah blah. And
treat him mean.
Yeah, I know.
Keep him keen.
And I was like, whoa, it's just like when you don't really care or don't think you're gonna get it. That's always the way.
Yeah.
When I want it too much, I never get it.
I feel like that's a classic story with actors also.
Oh yeah.
You always hear about people who are like,
like
I didn't think I was going to get the part, so I just went in and I was really loose.
Yeah.
And they loved it.
And suddenly I was in Fast and Furious 5. And suddenly...
Is that what's in your future?
Yeah, I guess so.
What number are we on now?
I'll manifest a song gets in Fast and Furious 6. Is it 6 now?
I think we might be way beyond
It's probably
that.
like...
I feel like this might be something
15.
that Peter knows the answer to.
Fast and Furious times.
Do you know?
Yeah.
11.
Fast and
12, 13. 1, 2, 12.
How many? The next one would be Fast and Furious 1 to 12. All of them.
The next one will be Fast and Furious 12.
12.
Or 13. I'm getting nods.
I think it really matters I get this right. Either way, I would like what's like one of my most like wrong songs to be in Fast and Furious. If it's
maybe
Better Not. Let's just go with that.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine it's like a car
in a chase scene.
Better. No. No.
Thanks for listening to the Music Now podcast, and thanks to Alice Faye for chatting to us. Alice's new single, Here We Go All Over Again with Julian Santamaria, is out on the 25th of July, and details of her Glasgow and Edinburgh gigs are in the episode description. The Music Now podcast was hosted by me, Laurie Presswood, produced and recorded by Peter Simpson, with sounds and music by Brian Pokora. We'll be back with another episode of Music Now next month. Bye!